Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Watka and today I will talk about a fighter that's got many names, but most known is the Yakovlev Yak-141, or NATO-named Freestyle. Now, the Yak-141 was a supersonic vertical takeoff and landing fighter aircraft designed by Yakovlev. It was intended as a replacement for the Yak-38. What I just read is the first thing you read on Wikipedia. So, Wikipedia doesn't really say why the aircraft failed or why it's not in use. It just says it didn't really match the standards, but why it didn't, I will tell you. Well, first of all, Soviet VTOL, the first Soviet VTOL aircraft was the Yak-36M. It was just a test to see if Soviets are able to design a VTOL capable aircraft, but also if they are able to match the power of the British Sea Harrier. Now, they realized that designing a VTOL aircraft is going to be a lot of problems. The British Harrier was a marvelous aircraft. It was revolutionary for its time. It was the first ever VTOL aircraft that didn't have a lot of issues, and it was capable in combat, rescue operations, dogfighting, whatever you wanted it. It was a very capable platform for a vertical takeoff and landing. But Soviets didn't want such a slow aircraft. Even though the Sea Harrier was good, it couldn't reach Mach 1. So the Soviets said, we're going to make an aircraft that is going to be VTOL capable, able to reach speeds over Mach 1, and also be able to carry a very good radar, very powerful missiles to be able to protect our Navy. Now, that didn't happen immediately. This was after the first aircraft ever produced, which was the Yak-38. Now, what the Yak-38 meant for the Yakovlev Bureau was very good. They actually proved to the Soviet government that they were actually very revolutionary and they were capable. Because a lot of other aircraft manufacturers at the time, they weren't really looking for a VTOL capable aircraft. They really didn't need it, and the Russian Navy didn't see use for it. So the Yakovlev said, we're gonna design it, we're gonna prove it to you, it's gonna happen. And they actually did. The Yak-38 was something promising, but it still failed. There's a lot of reasons, but we'll get into the first things about this aircraft, which is its primary use. Well, the primary user was the Soviet Navy, and it was supposed to be a type of a multi-role. It was supposed to be a fighter, bomber, anti-ship, whatever. It was supposed to be a lot of things, but the problem was it had small pylons. The aircraft couldn't carry a lot of things, and a lot of models came without a gun. So it was just another test bed, another tryout to shoot and try to get a capable platform. With all that said, the aircraft was meant to be small. It wasn't a side grade. It had to be small, it had to be capable of a lot of things, and it had to be, and this is the most important part, to withstand the aircraft's weight and hot jets from the engines. It was the main part of the aircraft, that it doesn't overheat and that is and it's reliable. Now, the design of the Yak-38 went with a very different approach from the Harrier. The Harrier had one big engine that had convertible nozzles or reversible nozzles, which meant that one engine doesn't have extra things to it. It's just you rotate the nozzles to make the aircraft go in a different way. But the Yak-38 had a different idea. The Yak-38 used multiple engines, and what it meant is extra weight. I mean, this is seenable in the modern F-35. The problem here comes with, of course, heat and weight. First of all, the problem with heat, the engine was really unreliable, and the aircraft couldn't even fly if the weather conditions weren't perfect. It was hot outside, the engine was melting, okay? It had a lot of problems with overheating, it had a lot of problems with general reliability parts and whatever, but the main problem was you have one engine in the back that has reversible nozzles and two in the front. Now, these two in the front engines, when you try to take off, are really good because they help you stabilize. They actually help you to take off. But the problem is when you fly, they're just dead weight and they're not needed. And they just make the main engine had to do more jobs and produce more power to push you through the air. This is why this aircraft never was capable of actually reaching Mach 1. I mean, it never was a point of designing it to go Mach 1, but it just failed at what it had to be. It had to be reliable multi-role, but it didn't do any of those things. What was the point then? Well, the point was to prove that Yakovlev Bureau was a capable aircraft designer of designing and producing a VTOL-capable aircraft. And when they started doing on a new design, which the Soviet Navy kinda asked for, they had to study over 50 designs. And the key problem was, the Navy wanted a thrust-vectoring aircraft that had afterburning engines and was capable of reaching speeds over Mach 1. So why did this aircraft fail so miserably? Well, there's a quote that I wanted to tell you. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. Now, what does this mean? Well, the Yak-141 was a very good aircraft. If you look at it on paper, it did all the things it was supposed to do. It was revolutionary for its time. But because the Soviet Navy and the Soviet Union fell, the funding stopped, and the Soviet Navy never saw use for the Yak-141. What was the main problem? Well, the Su-33 and the MiG-29K, or the Su-27K, they got introduced and showed that the Soviet Union, or to the Russian Navy, that vertical takeoff and landing aircraft were obsolete, not needed. And the Yakovlev Bureau realized that they're just wasting money and time, people, on researching something that will never enter production, never will be used, and it's not needed. This is why the Navy stopped the program and the Yakovlev Bureau moved on from these types of aircraft. This is the last VTOL capable fighter ever designed for the Russian Navy, Air Force, whatever. It is the last VTOL that ever Russia tried to produce. So enough with my jibber jabber. I will start chronologically. So it goes something along the lines of this. First of all, the Navy ordered the development of the Yak-141. The Yakovlev Bureau started developing it, but the thing is, the Soviet Union fell, and after the fall of the Soviet Union, the Russian Navy didn't see it in use. They really didn't see it. They need the aircraft, and so they started more investing into the Su-33 program, and this is why they stopped dumping money into a failed project. So why is this aircraft so popular or unpopular? Well, and this is a speculation. It technically isn't true, but it kind of is. Because the F-35 uses a similar nozzle engine, a similar variation. But the thing is, the Yakovlev had two engines separate. The F-35 has two engines that are powered by the main engine. So it isn't really the same technology. It's more of a they use the nozzle. And a lot of people say, no, the Russian technology, it's superior. The Americans could never design an aircraft without Russian technology. It's all about them, and they stole the stealth papers from our Soviet designers and whatnot. You could claim it, but I think it's, when you look at it, every aircraft copied a better aircraft. Now, am I saying the Yak-141 was a better aircraft? No, but was it a better VTOL than a Harrier? Oh, of course it was. I mean, it was really more capable. Now, was it really fucking unreliable? Oh, yes, it was. It was pretty fucking shit. But it proved that it was possible to design a VTOL aircraft that was capable of going speeds greater than Mach 1. But what was the original failure? I mean, they still could produce VTOL capable aircraft, still proved that they were very good at designing them. Well, they really didn't see the need. I think the future of the Russian VTOL program is doomed. I mean, they don't really need it. The only people or only nations that use these aircraft that are most popular are the British Air Force and the US Marines. In the US, no aircraft carrier still uses VTOL capable aircrafts except the US Marines. I mean, the US Navy doesn't use them, or it stopped. I mean, they just really don't need it. They're unreliable and really not needed. I mean, currently they're trying to phase out the Harrier for the F-35, I think it's B. So what's going to be the future with the Russia? I don't know. They're developing the Su-75. Maybe they'll make that thing VTOL capable. I don't see the reason why would they do that, but I think that's kind of stupid. So the Yak-141 was supposed to be really alike with the MiG-29. I mean, it had the same radar. It was supposed to be kind of like that. A light fighter, can be used for CAS operations, but it was mainly used for Air Force, air defense fighter. Now, it has a lot of similarities with a lot of MiG aircraft. It is similar to the MiG-25. You can see it with the intakes, the shape of a fucking coffin. But also, what it's similar with is it used the same radar. It used the same head mount display. And in general, the aircraft wasn't putting any revolutionary electronics or technology. It wasn't something to dream on about, to fucking talk about with your fucking grandfather. It wasn't something bonkers. It was just a airframe that was capable of being a vertical takeoff and landing. But why it failed, and here's a lot of reasons. I'm gonna kind of number them. First of all, the aircraft, if it was exactly like the 38 Yak 38, it was hot outside, you couldn't fly. It was heavy rain, you couldn't fly. So the problem with the aircraft mostly was, if the weather wasn't perfect, you're not taking off. Okay, the aircraft was unusable in bad weather conditions. It was had a lot of problems with just the engine in general. The engine was really unreliable. I think one even crashed. And currently, the Yak-38 is not in use in any part of Russian Air Force or Navy. It's in the museums. You could check those museums out. They're pretty cool. And I think in general, the Yak 141 deserves a little bit more recognition, because it just shows that Russians were capable of designing something revolutionary, something new, but they just quit. And who is to blame them? I mean, I was shitting on the Yak 141 even though I was supposed to praise it. Well, I love the Yak 141. It's one of my favorite aircraft. It's an underdog. We all root for the underdogs even though they fail a lot of times. But I'm not gonna just shit on it. I'm gonna shit generally on VTOL aircraft right now, because if you look at any VTOL aircraft throughout the history, and even with the Yak 141, the main problem was reliability. And you're gonna say, well, the Harrier was pretty good. No, the early versions were still shit. I mean, the early versions also had a lot of problems with overheating, had a lot of reliability problems. Why the Harrier was so successful? Because the British needed a VTOL aircraft. They really needed that platform and really wanted to improve it. So they started dumping money into it, started improving it, giving better engines, better this, better that, better this. And over time, it became a reliable platform capable of doing almost everything. If this happened to Yak 141, of course, it would do the same thing. It would be really reliable. It would be really good. But Russians didn't need it. Unlike the United States Marines and the British, they really kind of needed that aircraft, and that's why they started dumping money into these types of aircraft, these VTOL capable multi-role aircraft. I mean, because I'm an American glazer, this part of the video is supposed to be a little bit about the F-35 and the VTOL capable version of the F-35. So when the Lockheed Skunkworks were, and this is where the myth comes from them stealing the design. So the Lockheed Skunkworks were looking for a VTOL design that was capable of high speeds, and the Yak 1 was just the thing they were looking for. Its Soyuz R-79 V300 engine was the best thing they found, because it was just easier for Lockheed. It was much cheaper to just buy it. But also, the design wasn't immediate. When the F-35 was first being created, it wasn't supposed to be all in one. It was, but they never thought that the Navy would actually want to replace it. They would, but the thing was, they just came, hey, can you make us a VTOL version? And they said, yeah, we can. And when they started looking around, they saw the Yak 141, and they realized that this is probably the best place to start from. It was what the Navy was, or not the Navy, the Marines were looking for. And they thought, hey, this is kind of the same thing we can integrate into our new engine. So they started making from this platform, from this nozzle rotatable nozzle. And because Yakovlev at that time was facing fucking bankruptcy, they sold it to Skunkworks. And I think this is a really good deal they did, because it just shows that even though Russia or so-called Soviet Union and USA had a beef, they had the entire Cold War. After the Cold War, they still could kind of like work together, even military-wise, because currently that's not possible. But after the fall of the Soviet Union, they were pretty good, They and this is just one of those things where even they could work together over military designs. And I think this aircraft wasn't. I think the Yak 141 didn't deserve it. I think it still should be kind of just a proof that Russia is capable of even working with the West, but also designing VTOL aircraft. And problem is that it's just sad what happened to the aircraft. It's I don't know. It's something like the F-14. It was a good aircraft, but it just came out in the wrong time and got phased out by the better things, or just found replacements that were cheaper and better. And that's just a sad story. So what's the future? I don't know. As I said, Russia will not be looking for VTOL aircraft anytime unless they start making like a shit ton of aircraft carriers, but I don't think that's possible. And I think that the F-35 program is going to advance the VTOL capabilities even more to the point where reliability is no longer the issue. It kind of is for the F-35 with the VTOL capabilities, but I just think that if they put their minds to it, the F-35 will be the new Sea Harrier. It will be a reliable platform capable of doing anything. With the new Block 4 upgrade, I think it's going to be something even more revolutionary, but the VTOL capabilities of the F-35 are pretty good, and I just want to see it on more air shows. I think that would be the best thing. So I just want to thank everybody who saw this video, who watched it till the end, and just anybody who just interacted with the video, liked it, or subscribed. I just want to thank everybody. The more subscribers or likes I get, the more of this type of content I will release. If you want to see me review any other aircraft, I would really like the comments to like say what should I review. And I just want to thank everybody, and thank you for watching.